This is the last video in our series of creating some dishes using Maya. In our first video, we created a plate. In the second video, we created a bowl. And in this last video, we're going to create a serving tray to put these on. We've used several different tools and techniques to get these two assets, including using the bevel, the connect, combining different meshes together, and using the bridge to connect two edges to create more polygons. In this next project, we are going to use some newer tools that are going to push the shape of our 3D models even further. The expectation is that you have worked through these previous two videos, so while we will be reusing some of the tools that we used in these ones, I won't be going in as much detail with using them as I did in the previous ones, so that I can show off the new tools. So first, let's hide the plate and the bowl since we do not need to see them as we create our tray. I'm going to use the box or cube, however you want to refer to it, as the starting polygon shape for our tray since I'm going to be making sort of a rectangular shaped tray. Let's go to the channel box and let's set some inputs on this to get this closer in shape to the final look of the tray. So the height baseline is going to be set to -1 since we do want the pivot point to be at the bottom of the tray. The width is going to be set to 45 centimeters. The height is going to be set to 4 centimeters, and the depth is going to be set to 25 centimeters. This is all we need to set over here, so let's go ahead and name this tray. I want the final look of this tray to look like it does have a little bit of a lip to it so that the items on it can't slip and slide and fall off. That's why we did make it a little bit thicker than what you would think a tray should be. The next step to getting this close to the final shape is going to be to make that lip based off of this height. And we're going to do that by using a new tool. If we go over to the modeling toolkit, you'll find it over here, and it's called the extrude tool. This tool is an extremely important tool, and you're going to find that you're going to use it a lot. In fact, there's two different methods that we can extrude in Maya using either this tool or with a shortcut method. I'm going to have a separate video that shows the extrude tool in more detail, so I do recommend that you watch that to see exactly how this works, as well as some ways that you might make mistakes using it and to keep in mind. So we are going to do a face extrude on this, which is so that we can do an inset. In other programs, if you're familiar with 3D modeling, there might be two different tools to do an extrude or an inset, but just be aware that in Maya, we do insets with the extrude tool. So if you are coming to Maya from another program, don't look for inset. It's underneath extrude. So I'm just going to select this top face and then I'm going to hit the extrude button. This allows us to type specific settings for our extrude. The thickness is if we wanted to make it go up or down, but that's not what we want to do. We're trying to create kind of an edge to this. So we're going to do that using the offset. I'm going to give it a 0.5 centimeter offset, and we can see that it's insetting now this other polygon in there and creating this nice edge around it. I'm then going to hit Q to confirm. I'm just turning it to the selection tool to do that. And now I need to extrude this new face downwards to create that lip on the edge. I could use this extrude tool again to do that, but I do want to show you the quick method, and that is using the move tool. If you have faces or edges selected and you have the move tool on, if you hold down the shift key, you can see that if I hover over one of these arrows, it changes it to say extrude, because I can hold down shift, then click and drag on the arrow, and it will extrude that edge for me, so either up or down. The key is to remember to not let go of any of your keys, like don't let go of the shift key, don't let go of the mouse button until you have it where you want it to go. So I don't want to like let it go up here or down here. I'm going to, eyeball it because we're going to actually fix it in a second, and then I can release it. So that is just a secondary method of ways that you can use the extrude. So you can either extrude this way, or you can extrude the quick way by holding the shift key. You can also extrude by using shift with the scale key. This is more for how you would inset with it. So you would get the scale, select your face, hold down shift, and you can extrude as an inset by using the shift. But if you notice, it doesn't do it evenly, and that's why if you do need it to be an even inset with all sides the same size, you do not want to do the quick method. You want to use the actual extrude tool. So one of the downsides of doing the quick method is we couldn't type in, where we wanted this to go. So if we select that face and we come over to the modeling toolkit, you might not be aware of this, but if you scroll down, if your screen isn't big enough to show the whole thing, we have this really handy section at the bottom called the Move Settings. Make sure that you're aware of this because this can be extremely helpful with making sure that things are where they should be. So for instance, with this polygon selected, I can see that the position of it on the y-axis, so the up and down, is at 0.79 centimeters. So if I need it to be at a specific spot, like, the bottom one is at 0. If I want the bottom to be a half a centimeter thick as well, I can easily come in here and type 0.5 to change its position. You can also get it from, multiple polygons at once. So like if I were to select like these two polygons by holding the shift key, it would tell me where the height is based on the average. So we can see that, even just one, it tells me the height is 2.25, which means that's where the center of that selection is. You can also see this information if we select vertices and edges. So like for instance, if I select the whole thing, all of those vertices, it tells me the average of all the vertices is a height of 2 with an X and Z position of 0, which makes sense because we are building it off the origin and we built it 2 centimeters high. So the whole thing should have a center of 2. So become aware of this, make sure that you are using it because it can be very helpful to make sure you know exactly where your faces, edges, and vertices are, and you can manually adjust them then through this because you wouldn't do it here. Like, you can't manually adjust your position of these components in the channel box, but we can do that down here in the modeling toolkit. So let's kind of make this a little bit fancier now. So right now we just kind of have a plain box. It's getting there in shape, but it is a little bit boring. What if we wanted to make it a little bit fancier by flaring out these sides a little bit so it's not just this boring shape? I guess we could come in and select these edges and manually move them, but then we'd have to try to do it correctly on both sides. We could type in our numbers here and that would work, but it is kind of the slower method to do. Instead, we can take advantage of another thing in the move settings, which is this step snap. Step snap can save you some time when you have to do very specific moves. There's 2 different types of step snaps that we can do. We can do a relative or an absolute. A relative step snap is moving something based off of its current position. So if I turn relative step snap on and have it set to 1 centimeter, when I use the move tool, it's going to move it 1 centimeter at a time. So if I start at negative 22.25 and I move it 1, it'll be at 23.25. If I move it, I can keep moving that as much as I need and I can count. I can change this too. What if I wanted to move it at 10 centimeters each step? Not quite what I need for this one, but just as a demonstration, it will move it based off of its current position. So I do just want to move this 1 centimeter and I'm going to move this one 1 centimeter. So that's a lot quicker than trying to select it, figure out exactly what it is, and then manually change it. Looking at this, it does feel a little bit tall, and it's fine if we decide as we go that we do want to make some slight changes to the overall shape of it because we realize it's not quite working. So I do want to shrink this down by 1 centimeter as well, so that it's not 4 centimeters tall, it's 3 centimeters tall. I can easily do this with that step snap. So I'm going to select one of these polygons, double click this one so it does select the loop around. And then with my move tool, with that step snap still set to relative 1, I'm going to just click and pull it down for 1 snap. And now this will be 3 centimeters high. So the step snap is a really great tool for making these kind of adjustments and making sure that everything is staying nice and clean. I'll get into what the absolute step snap means in a few minutes. First, I'm going to introduce a new tool to you that I use quite a bit myself. It's sort of like the Connect tool, but it's a little bit looser and allows you to make edge loops wherever you want. It does still need to be able to loop all the way around or go to like a connection point, but you're not beholden to it being in the center and then having to pinch or, push it around. You can place it a little bit more freely and then adjust it later. We find this underneath mesh tools, and it's this insert edge loop. In fact, I use insert edge loop so much that I tend to create a button for it on my custom shelf so that I don't need to go and hunt for it again. So it's a handy tool to use, and you might find that you start ending up using it a little bit more than the Connect tool. The Connect tool is great if you do need to put it exactly in the middle and you know exactly where it needs to go, or you need to divide it by putting 2 connections and it does need to be, exactly divided into thirds. But we could use the Connect tool for what I'm about to do, but I do want to show you how to use this because it is a very handy tool to have. So I'm going to click Insert Edge Loop. And all you do then is you click and drag on an edge that you want to insert. So I'm going to just click and drag on here to place my first one. I can then click and drag over here to place my second one. And that's it. We have our 2 edge loops. Again, it is a little bit looser of a placement, so they aren't going to be perfect, but we can adjust these. And I'm going to use that as an opportunity to show you a little bit more with how to use some of the tools we've already been working with. So if we go to the top, we can see that, when you do insert an edge loop, it does kind of try to find like the average of the edges around it. So it's not perfectly straight. It's very easy to straighten these back out. It's kind of a little trick that is going to be super helpful because you can use this in a lot of different ways. If you go to your vertex selection and you select all of those vertices, you can use the scale tool then to straighten these out. So you can see that they're kind of curvy right now. I'm going to scale them inwards as if I'm making them smaller, and you can see that it straightens it. It's kind of like a handy trick to make vertices be on the same axes if you do have a need for straightening out stuff like this. I use it all the time in different circumstances. So they're straightened out now, but we do kind of need them to be, evenly spaced from the middle. Again, the Connect might have been a slightly better tool to use this, but I do want to show you how we can easily do this. And it's using the step snap again, except we're going to use it as an absolute step snap. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make sure I have one of the loops selected that we did straighten out. We can see that its location on the z-axis is negative 4.60. And we probably want to put that on a little bit nicer of a number. Now we could go ahead and just manually type that in, like manually select it and put it on a whole number. But there's a slightly faster way to do this. We can change our step snap from relative to absolute. Think of this as more of a grid snap in a way, where it's going to snap to the closest of, 1 centimeter. So since it's at negative 4.60, if I pull, this way, just slightly, you can see it snapped to a -5. So it kind of cleared it out to like a nice whole number. Same thing with this one. I can pull it and it's going to snap it to a 4. And then I can easily move that now to +5, so that this one is at a -5 and this one's at a +5. So they're evenly spaced now on our asset. I do like to use the absolute a lot, just to kind of keep my numbers clean. It can be, we can even drop it down to like a 0.5 if you want, but it's being able to use your step snap on absolute is a really handy way to make things nice and even if you need to. Don't forget that your step snap is turned on. Sometimes you might not want it on and forget it's there and think there's something strange going on. So remember, if you do turn it on, to turn it off when you're done with it. So now it's time to actually create the handles on this, and we're going to do that using an extrude. The nice thing is that we can actually use the step snap set to absolute to help us with this if we do want to use the quicker method. So we could select these top polys. I'm going to select this one and this one. And we could use the extrude tool to extrude them up. But if we have our step snap set to absolute, we will automatically snap to 1 centimeter as we go. So like this can be very helpful if you do need to use or want to use the quick one, to use absolute with this. So if I hold down shift and pull up, I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I know that I moved that up 5 centimeters. 5 is a little bit too tall. I think I need to drop it down one. So I'm going to go down to a 7. There we go. Now we need to make our holes for our handles, because this will be a very hard tray to hold. And we're going to do that again with an extrude. So I'm going to select both polygons on both sides. But since I'm going to do an inset, I don't want to do it with the scale tool because I want to type in a specific amount so that it's even on all sides. So I'm going to go ahead and use the extrude tool instead, so I can type 0.5 into the offset. Next, I'm going to then hit the delete key to delete out these polygons because I don't actually want them there. I'm just cutting more or less like a hole out. The last thing we need to do to finish this basic shape of the handle is we do need to connect these together, and we can just utilize the bridge tool like we use for creating the bowl. So I'm going to just double click on one of these edges, hold shift, double click on the next one, and then bridge it. Same thing on this side, double click, hold shift, double click, and then bridge it. And we have the basics of our handles. This is a good shape for us to work with, but just like the plate and the bowl, I do need to go in and give this a little bit more refinement. If we were to click off and kind of look at it, without the edges selected, we can tell that it looks a little bit sharp. Like it's not the greatest shaped tray as far as like these edges go. This wouldn't be a very comfortable tray. So we're going to go through and do a little bit of beveling and making sure our hardness, softness edges are set correctly. I do want to show you something a little bit new with the beveling. We've only beveled some very basic shapes. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, select my edges as I've done before. but I do want to select them all the way around on this top edge so I can bevel this all at once. Otherwise, we're going to have a huge mess. In fact, let me do it. Don't do this. I just want to show you what happens if we don't. So like, what if I bevel this edge? And then I bevel this edge. Look at this weird mess it makes. Like, that's not nice to have. That's a really ugly polygon that we don't need. So one of the ways we can get around that is by beveling things together. So we know that, you know, I'm going to guess this is like a plastic tray. Most likely when this was formed, these would be like nice plastic edges. So we'd probably want to bevel them at the same time. So I have like all of these outer edges selected so that when I hit bevel, we can bevel them all at once to help minimize those ugly edges. We are still getting kind of a weird, gross polygon right here. Like that looks kind of weird, like this weird kind of pucker where some of them are meeting. And we don't really want that because it is creating polygons that are more than 4 sides, and we'd have to go in and clean this up. We can fix this though by changing the type of mitering, but it's normally set to auto, but we do actually have different options. We can do a uniform, we can do a patch, we can do a radial, and we can do none. But the uniform one will give us a really nice clean corner with that. That is going to create some nice geometry for us. The other thing we could adjust, but we're not going to need to for this, but just so you are aware, is you can change where it miters along. Does it miter along the center, the edge, or the hard edge? The center or auto is going to be fine for this because it's going to give us the best look. So if you are getting some really ugliness with some strange polys when you do your bevels, try changing your mitering to uniform and also playing around with the miter along as well, so we can get something that looks nice and clean. So now that we have that one done, let's see what it looks like. And we need to do our hardness softness because it looks, you know, we're getting that strange look to it. So I'm going to go ahead and double click, and I'm just going to do them all at once. So I'm just holding shift and double clicking to select all of these edges. You could do them individually, but let's just do that. Double check over here. Need that one. And let's click on our soften edge. And that's looking better. I might also consider doing it to this one too. This inner one, like a bevel around here. Just to make this one look a little bit cleaner. Without forgetting to do our hardness softness. We gotta soften these. Same thing over here. Let's make sure these are selected. And there we go. It's looking a lot nicer. One last thing. I'm going to do one more. Oop, I think I forgot one. Let's try this guy. Like he got missed. There we go. I don't like these really sharp edges, so we can actually use the bevel to kind of round these out as well. So I'm going to select all these corners. And I'm going to go ahead and do a bevel on those. But we're going to do a little bit more of an extremer bevel because I do want it to feel like a round edge, not just like a smooth edge. So I'm going to jump up the segments to maybe 3. Let's maybe do 4 because it is kind of a big jump. And you can see that we're kind of giving it just like a little bit more of a nice round shape. If some things are acting up, you can always cycle through some of these to see if it makes a better look, but it does not. It looks like uniform's the best one. You can also, what does the miter along look like? Like the center actually might sometimes work a little bit better than the hard, because you can always jump this up, but no, it's not giving us quite the look we want. Let's go back. It doesn't help. It doesn't hurt to try. So let's kind of push this down a little. 0.841 uniform auto on. And now if we deselect, we'll have to fix that hardness, softness on all of these. It's such a small thing to do, hardness, softness, but it significantly changes the look of it. There we go. And now it's looking more like a plasticky kind of handle compared to this one. Let's go ahead and finish that off. You might end up every once in a while when you do this with a little bit of weirdness with the softness. There's a little bit of it right here. You can kind of see that. As long as it's not too egregious, I'm not too concerned about, the look of that, because honestly, when we zoom out, we don't really see it. And once we get to the stage where we're adding textures, like that's just going to disappear. As long as it's not like a crazy looking shadow on it, it's going to be fine. So there we go. We have a nice serving tray. We can turn on our plate and bowl. We are going to have to put these at a height of 0.5 since it does have a thickness to it. But we can kind of arrange these a little bit nicer onto our tray. So there you have it. We have a nice serving tray now using the extrude tool. Make sure you look for my shorter video that goes more in depth with the extrude tool, because you're going to find that you're going to be using it a lot.